For years, humanity had walked among the stars like curious children, exploring a vast ocean. They were young compared to the other races of the galaxy, but their progress was terrifyingly fast. Where others took centuries to travel beyond their homeworlds, humans managed it in decades. Where alien empires grew slowly, bound by tradition and fear, humanity built colonies on distant worlds and forged ships that could outfly anything the galaxy had seen. The galaxy watched. At first it watched with interest, then with suspicion, and finally, with fear. The alien races spoke to one another in whispers. Humans are too bold, too dangerous. If they continue like this, they will not just be equals, they will be masters. But humanity did not know this. They were too busy expanding, too busy dreaming, too busy building their future under alien stars. Earth's children were scattered across dozens of colonies, living lives of peace and ambition. To the common man, war felt like a relic of history. To the average settler, the galaxy seemed open and welcoming. But in the hidden chambers of alien councils, decisions were being made. The Kashara, the Zalari, the Dominion of Four Suns, all ancient and powerful civilizations met in secret. They remembered their own wars of the past, their own losses, and they feared what would happen when humanity's ambition reached its full height. One voice whispered in those councils, "Strike first. Destroy them now, before it is too late." And so the trap was prepared. The first signs were small. A trade convoy vanished near the Helion Nebula. A colony on the edge of human space went silent. At first, Earth believed it was only pirates or natural disasters. But then more colonies went dark. More fleets disappeared without a trace. Communications were cut one after another until humanity realized the truth. The galaxy had turned on them. It began with fire. Alien fleets swept into human space like storms, burning colonies, shattering defenses, and enslaving those they captured. Cities that had taken decades to build were erased in hours. Human warships fought bravely, but they were outnumbered 10 to 1. Still, they did not give in easily. A single human destroyer could take down ships twice its size. A single human captain could outthink fleets with years of experience. The aliens began to see it. The very thing they feared was true. Humans were different. They were dangerous even in defeat, but danger was not enough to save them. World after world fell. Millions of lives were lost. The proud colonies of humanity became smoking ruins. Earth itself trembled, not yet struck, but watching as the fire closed in from all directions. In the void between the stars, one last hope remained: the united human fleet. It was not the largest fleet in the galaxy, nor the most advanced. But it was all humanity had left. Thousands of ships, carrying not just soldiers but families, scientists, engineers, and millions in cryosleep. Humanity's last chance at survival. And at the head of this fleet stood Commander Arik Kale. He was not the strongest or the most famous of leaders, but he was steady, calm, a man who understood what was at stake. To him, the fleet was more than warships. It was the future of humanity. If the fleet fell, then humanity would vanish into history, just another species erased by fear. Inside his command ship, the Resolute, Arik stood before a map of the stars. Red marks spread across the galaxy. Each one a colony lost, a fleet destroyed, a world burned. Blue marks, the human strongholds, were fading fast. The crew was silent, watching him. They knew the truth. The enemy outnumbered them 100 to 1. The galaxy had united to end them. The humans were cornered, their backs against the cold void. But surrender was not an option. Arik's voice was steady as he spoke. They think humanity will die quietly. They think we will run, but they are wrong. We will not run. We will not kneel. If they want to end us, then they will bleed for every star they take. And when they bleed enough, they will regret ever turning on us. Around him, officers straightened. Fear did not vanish, but it hardened into something else. Resolve. Outside the viewports, the fleet drifted in silence. Warships floated like shadows, hidden in the dark void. Engines were quiet. Weapons were ready. Men and women waited for orders, their hands tight on their controls, their eyes watching the black horizon. The galaxy thought humanity was broken. But here in this fleet a storm was waiting. And when it broke, the galaxy would never forget it. The fleet drifted in silence, hidden in the endless dark between the stars. Thousands of ships, from mighty battleships to fragile carriers, gathered in tight formation. Their lights were dimmed, their signals quiet as if the humans themselves were holding their breath. This was not just a fleet of war. It was the last heart of humanity. Inside the massive carriers, millions slept in cryogenic chambers. Men, women, and children frozen in time, waiting for a tomorrow that might never come. If the fleet fell, those lives would end without ever waking. Commander Arik Kale walked the command deck of the Resolute, his flagship. Around him, officers spoke in hushed voices, their faces lined with exhaustion and fear. Weeks had passed since they had last seen a friendly world. Every day brought reports of another colony destroyed, another fleet wiped out. Humanity was cornered, but even cornered prey can bite. Arik studied the tactical display. Alien fleets were moving like storm clouds, gathering for a final strike. The scouts' reports were clear. The enemy was not satisfied with destroying colonies. They wanted the fleet itself. They wanted the end of humanity, yet despite the fear pressing on him, Arik did not tremble. He understood something the aliens had forgotten. Numbers alone do not win wars. Willpower does. Strategy does. Humanity had always been the weaker side, from the days they fought with sticks and stones to the great wars of Earth. But weakness had forged something stronger than steel, the will to fight when defeat seemed certain. He looked around the command deck. "They are coming," he said quietly, "and they believe they are hunters, but they do not see what waits for them here. We are not prey. We are the storm." The words spread across the ship, whispered from soldier to soldier, from pilot to pilot. Fear did not vanish, but it hardened. Every person on the Resolute knew their role. Every person in the fleet understood the truth. If they failed, humanity was gone. In the quiet of the crew quarters, pilots prepared their fighters. They checked and rechecked their weapons, their armor, their comms. Some kissed pictures of family members, lost on colonies that no longer existed. Others sat in silence, staring into the dark, their thoughts heavy but focused. A young pilot, barely 20, whispered to his friend, "Do you think we'll win?" His friend, older and scarred, answered without looking up. "Winning doesn't matter. Fighting does. If we fight, humanity lives. Even if we die, we leave behind a fire they cannot put out." The younger pilot nodded, gripping his helmet. Fear remained, but it had purpose now. The fleet was not large compared to the enemy, but what it lacked in size it made up for in cunning. Small ships were outfitted with hidden weapons, capable of striking far beyond their weight. Carriers carried drones and decoys, ready to confuse and divide the enemy. And in the deepest part of the fleet, engineers worked tirelessly on secret projects. Devices that could twist the battle in ways the aliens had never seen. Arik had ordered them to think like predators, not prey, and they obeyed. That night in the endless dark, the fleet gathered in silence. Arik stood once more at the viewing glass, staring into the star-speckled void. Somewhere out there, alien fleets were closing in, united in their hatred. He thought of Earth, still standing but surrounded. He thought of the colonies that were now only ashes. He thought of the billions already gone. And then he thought of the frozen millions aboard his fleet. Their lives pressed on his shoulders like a weight no man could carry. But he would carry it. He whispered to himself so softly only he could hear. "They think they will bury us. But they have no idea what grows from buried seeds." A signal came from the scouts. Enemy movement detected. Multiple fleets. Estimated arrival 3 days. The bridge fell silent. 3 days. That was all the time left before the storm hit. Arik nodded slowly. "Then we have 3 days to prepare. 3 days to make them regret what they have started." His officers looked at him, waiting for orders. Arik's voice was steady, sharp as steel. "Begin Phase 1. Hide the carriers. Move the decoys. Ready every ship. When they arrive, we will not wait for them. We will strike first." The order spread like fire. Engines hummed to life. Weapons were armed. Pilots strapped into cockpits. Crews raced through corridors. The fleet was no longer silent. It was alive. Far beyond human space, alien commanders laughed at the idea of resistance. To them, humanity was finished. They saw the last fleet as nothing more than prey waiting to be slaughtered. But they were wrong. In the dark between the stars, a trap was waiting. And when it was sprung, The galaxy would finally understand what it meant to face humanity. The calm before the storm was ending, and soon the storm would break. The dark void between the stars was silent, but the silence carried weight. Somewhere out there, beyond human senses, the enemy was coming. Thousands of alien ships united in their purpose, to end humanity once and for all. But instead of waiting for the storm to crash down, humanity chose to become the storm. Commander Arik Kale stood at the center of the Resolute's bridge. The fleet was ready. His officers waited for his order, tense but focused. The enemy believed they had time, that the humans were hiding, desperate and weak. They would soon learn otherwise. Arik's voice cut through the quiet. "Begin the hunt." Across the fleet, engines flared to life. Small strike groups separated from the main formation, vanishing into the dark. These were not ordinary missions. They were suicide runs, traps and ambushes designed to bleed the enemy before the real battle began. The first strike came in the asteroid belt of Dravos 7. A massive alien fleet entered the system, their ships larger and more advanced than anything humanity had built. They moved with arrogance, confident that nothing could stand against them. But hidden within the shadows of the asteroids, human destroyers waited with silent engines. As the aliens crossed deeper into the belt, the rocks around them shifted. Explosives buried deep in the asteroids erupted, sending thousands of tons of rock smashing into the alien formation. Ships twisted, shields flared, and confusion spread. Then the humans attacked. Dozens of destroyers lit up the dark, their cannons burning through enemy hulls. Fighters swarmed like angry hornets, striking from every angle. The aliens tried to regroup, but in the chaos of the debris field, their larger ships became clumsy targets. Within minutes, half the alien fleet was burning. But the humans did not stay. They struck hard, then vanished before reinforcements could arrive. The ambush was over as quickly as it began, leaving behind only wreckage and silence. News of the battle spread across the galaxy. For the first time, alien commanders realized that humanity was not broken. They were fighting back, and they were winning small victories. The next strike came at a gas giant in the Vera system. The enemy had gathered dozens of ships there, using the thick clouds of the giant as cover. But the humans turned the planet itself into a weapon. As the alien fleet drifted through the upper atmosphere, human bombers released charges designed to ignite pockets of gas. Explosions tore across the sky like firestorms, ripping ships apart and scattering the survivors. From above, human cruisers descended, unleashing a storm of plasma and missiles. The aliens never saw it coming. Once again, the humans disappeared after the battle, leaving their enemies shaken and bleeding. Every strike was small compared to the size of the war. The humans were still outnumbered, still hunted, still fighting against impossible odds. But something was happening. For the first time, the galaxy felt fear. The aliens had expected humans to run, to beg for mercy, to collapse under the weight of so many enemies. Instead, the humans were striking from the shadows, turning every system into a battlefield, every asteroid into a weapon, every star into a trap. They were not fighting like soldiers. They were fighting like predators. On the Resolute, the crew watched as reports came in. Each ambush, each victory, each narrow escape filled them with new strength. One officer smiled grimly. "They thought we were cornered. They thought we would die quietly." Arik nodded, his eyes hard. "Now they will learn what it means to fear us." But even as the victories grew, so did the danger. The aliens began to adapt. Fleets traveled with more scouts, more sensors, more escorts. They spread rumors of human cruelty, calling them savages and monsters, hoping to unite the galaxy even more tightly against them. Still, the attacks did not stop. Humanity refused to give the galaxy a moment of peace. One night, as the fleet drifted in hiding, Arik met with his closest advisors. A hollow map showed alien fleets gathering near a star system that guarded the road to Earth. If the enemy broke through there, Earth itself would burn. Arik's eyes locked on the glowing enemy symbols. He knew this was the moment. The ambushes had worked, but now a larger strike was needed. Something bold. Something that would shake the galaxy to its core. He looked at his officers and spoke with calm certainty. "The small strikes were only the beginning. Now we show them our true strength. Now we break their fleets before they reach Earth." His officers exchanged tense looks, but none argued. They knew the risk. They knew the cost. But they also knew there was no other choice. The orders spread across the fleet. Every pilot, every gunner, every engineer prepared for what was coming. They had survived this long, but the real test was ahead. Humanity was not done fighting. The galaxy had turned against them. But now, humanity would turn the war back against the galaxy. The first strike was only the beginning, and soon, the galaxy would understand why humans were never meant to be underestimated. The human fleet drifted in silence near the broken remains of a dead star. The system was cold, lightless, and empty, perfect for hiding. Around the Resolute, ships floated like silent predators, engines low, weapons ready. The next great battle was coming, but Commander Arik Kale had something else on his mind. For weeks, reports from captured transmissions had painted a strange picture. Not every alien race had attacked with the same fury. Some fleets had hesitated. Some ships had broken formation at the last moment. Some worlds had offered no resistance when human raiders passed by. And then came the proof. A damaged alien cruiser, captured after a brutal skirmish, carried encrypted records. Human engineers worked tirelessly to break the codes. When they did, the truth stunned them all. Not all aliens wanted this war, some had been forced. Others had been bribed. Many feared humanity's rise, but many more feared the great empires that led the charge against Earth. The so-called Galactic Alliance was not as united as it claimed. It was built on fear and lies. Arik stood in the dim glow of the strategy chamber, staring at the decoded files. His officers gathered around, reading the words in silence. The Kashara demanded unity, one officer whispered. Any race that refused to join was threatened with destruction. The Zalari paid entire fleets in resources to fight, another muttered. This war is not about survival. It's about control. Arik's eyes narrowed. He understood what this meant. The galaxy was not a single enemy. It was a fractured empire, held together only by fear of humanity. That fear was real, but so was their hatred for each other. If humanity could exploit that, the balance could shift. The first contact came quietly. A small alien vessel appeared near the edge of the fleet's hiding place. The humans prepared to fire, but the ship sent a message. We are not your enemy. Suspicion filled the bridge. Was it a trap? A trick to draw them out? Arik gave a single order. Bring them in, but prepare for betrayal. The alien envoy was brought aboard under heavy guard. Its form was strange, thin, insect-like with luminous eyes. It bowed low before Arik and spoke in halting human tongue. My people did not wish for this war. We were told to fight or we would be destroyed. The alliance is not strong. It is afraid. Help us and we will help you. The crew looked to Arik uncertain. Was this real, or was it a trick designed to weaken them? Arik studied the envoy carefully. Every instinct told him the creature spoke the truth. Finally he nodded. Then you will prove it. Help us turn their fleets against each other. And so began the secret war within the war. The human fleet sent coded transmissions, hidden in the noise of battle. Messages of survival, promises of alliance, warnings that the so-called Galactic Alliance would one day betray its own followers. Some aliens ignored them. Others reported the messages to their masters. But some listened. Some began to doubt. Some began to wonder if humanity's fight was not madness but destiny. Small cracks began to spread through the enemy ranks, but with cracks came danger. Not all aliens could be trusted. Some pretended to be allies, only to turn on humans at the worst moment. One such betrayal nearly cost the fleet its life. In the shadow of the Hylon moons, an alien commander promised safe passage. He swore his ships would defect, swore his people would join humanity's cause. Arik believed him, or perhaps wanted to believe him. The fleet lowered its guard just enough. That was when the trap was sprung. Hundreds of alien warships erupted from hiding, cutting through the dark like blades. Weapons fired, burning into human ships before they could react. The Resolute shuddered under the first wave of fire, alarms screaming through its decks. The betrayal was complete, but humanity was not so easy to kill. Even in the trap, the fleet fought like cornered wolves. Fighters swarmed. Destroyers rammed enemy ships, detonating their cores in suicidal bursts. The battle raged in the blackness, fire lighting the moons like false suns. When it was over, half the human fleet was damaged, but the aliens had paid dearly. The betrayers had been destroyed, their ships shattered, their screams lost in the void. Arik stood on the bridge, face hard as stone. "Let this be the lesson," he said coldly. "If they betray us, they die. If they stand with us, they live. There will be no middle ground." Word of the betrayal spread quickly, but so did word of the punishment. Alien races began to whisper, "The humans cannot be tricked. They cannot be broken. And if you fight them, they will make you bleed." What was meant to be humanity's weakness became its weapon. Yet, as the fleet repaired and prepared for the next clash, Arik knew the truth. The cracks in the enemy alliance were real. Some races could be swayed. Some could be turned. But trust was dangerous, and betrayal could strike at any moment. Humanity was not just fighting the galaxy now. They were fighting a shadow war of secrets, lies, hand-shifting loyalties, and somewhere out there, the largest alien fleet in history was still gathering for the final strike. The betrayal had cost humanity dearly, but it had also given them hope, because now, for the first time, the galaxy was beginning to turn against itself, and humanity was ready to use that weakness. The void trembled with war. At the edge of a dying star system, humanity's last fleet faced the galaxy's greatest armada. Alien ships filled the darkness in every direction, stretching so far that their lights looked like a second sky of stars. Battleships the size of cities, carriers that released endless swarms of fighters, destroyers in perfect formation. Every empire had sent its strength. They had gathered here for one reason: to end humanity forever. Inside the command deck of the Resolute, Commander Arik Kyle stared at the map of the battle space. Red symbols, enemy ships, covered the display. Blue symbols, his fleet, were a thin line in the dark. They were outnumbered 100 to 1. An officer whispered, "We cannot win this." Arik's eyes never left the map. His voice was steady like iron. "We don't need to win. We only need to break them. If we shatter their unity, the galaxy will never hold together. This is where humanity lives or dies." The order was given. The last human fleet advanced. Thousands of ships ignited their engines, tearing through the blackness toward the enemy. Carriers opened, releasing waves of fighters. Cruisers powered their cannons. Destroyers armed torpedoes. The void lit up with fire. The aliens answered with thunder. Their fleets moved like a wall of steel, weapons flashing, missiles screaming through the dark. The first wave struck the humans with devastating force. Entire squadrons vanished in explosions. Human ships burned, torn apart by energy blasts. The fleet shuddered under the storm, but they did not break. Human fighters cut through enemy lines like daggers. Small ships darted between massive cruisers, striking engines, tearing through weak spots, vanishing before the enemy could react. Ambush after ambush unfolded within the chaos. Hidden weapons fired from asteroids. Drones released decoys. Hacking codes slipped into alien systems, turning their own cannons against them. The galaxy had expected humans to fight like soldiers, but they fought like predators. And then came the twist. In the middle of the storm, alien ships suddenly broke formation, not to strike the humans, but to fire on their own allies. The first betrayal spread confusion like wildfire. Alien commanders shouted in disbelief as their supposed comrades turned against them. The secret alliances Arik had built, the whispers he had spread, now came alive. Entire fleets switched sides mid-battle. What had begun as one war became many, a storm of betrayal and blood. The humans pressed forward. "Push now," Arik ordered. "Hit their command ships. Break their spine!" The Resolute led the charge. Its cannons roared, blasting through enemy shields. Around it, human cruisers and allied defectors tore into the larger fleet, punching holes in the wall of steel. But victory did not come without cost. The aliens unleashed their superweapon, an enormous dreadnought, larger than any human ship. Its central cannon fired a beam of energy so powerful it cut through 3 human cruisers in a single shot, splitting them like paper. The shockwave rocked the Resolute, throwing crew to the floor. "Target that ship," Arik shouted. "Everything we have now." Every human weapon turned on the dreadnought. Missiles slammed into its shields. Fighters swarmed its surface, planting charges. The massive ship fired again, destroying more human vessels, but it could not hold forever. Finally, a squadron of human bombers broke through its defenses. They plunged into its hull, detonating their cores in a suicidal blaze. The dreadnought exploded, the blast wave tearing through the battlefield. The humans had lost many, but the monster was dead hours past. The battle raged without pause. Space was fire and wreckage, ships burning in every direction. The stars themselves seemed to vanish under the storm of explosions. Human ships fell one by one, but they dragged the enemy down with them. Every death was a wound to the galaxy's armada. On the bridge of the Resolute, alarms screamed. The ship's shields were failing. Hull breaches spread across the decks. Arik stood tall, his face calm even as the flagship groaned under the fire. A young officer turned to him, eyes wide with fear. "Commander, if we don't retreat, we'll all die." Arik looked out at the battlefield, at the burning wrecks of alien ships, at the fleets tearing each other apart. "We are humanity's last line," he said. "If we fall, then let us fall as the hammer that breaks their chains." And then the tide shifted. The alien fleets, once united, were in chaos. Some commanders retreated, unwilling to die for an alliance already breaking apart. Others fought each other more fiercely than the humans. What was meant to be humanity's extinction became a war of all against all. The human fleet, bloodied but unbroken, surged forward through the cracks. One final charge. The Resolute led the way, plunging deep into the enemy's heart. Its guns fired until they glowed red, tearing through the last line of alien ships. Human destroyers rammed enemy cruisers, detonating in brilliant bursts of fire. Pilots screamed their defiance into the void as they struck their enemies head-on. And then, silence. The galaxy's greatest armada was broken. Wreckage drifted in every direction. Fires burned in the void. The once mighty fleets of the galaxy were shattered, torn apart not only by human fire, but by their own betrayal. The last human fleet floated among the ruins, scarred and bloodied but alive. On the bridge of the Resolute, the surviving crew stood in stunned silence. They had done the impossible. Commander Arik Kale looked at the stars, his voice quiet but unyielding. "The galaxy came to end us. Now they will remember us, not as prey, not as victims, but as the storm that broke their unity. And in that silence, humanity was reborn. The war was not over, but the galaxy would never look at them the same again. The battlefield was silent. Where once the greatest armada of the galaxy had stood, now there was only wreckage. Burned hulls drifted through the void, their twisted frames glowing faintly in the dying light of a shattered star. Fires burned in silence, ships cracked apart, and the black sea of space carried the corpses of thousands. The galaxy's alliance, an empire of fear, united against humanity, was broken. And in the heart of that silence, the last human fleet remained. The Resolute was scarred, its hull torn and its shields gone, but it still stood. Around it, battered survivors floated in tight formation. Carriers with broken wings, destroyers missing entire sections, fighters returning with smoke trailing behind them. They had survived the impossible, but the cost was heavy. Entire squadrons were gone. Thousands of lives lost, half the fleet reduced to wrecks. Humanity had not won without blood. The survivors stood not in victory but in defiance. Yet defiance was enough. Word of the battle spread across the galaxy like fire. At first, the great powers tried to hide it, claiming humanity's fleet had been destroyed. But whispers traveled faster than lies. Alien captains returned to their homeworlds with stories of human cunning, of fleets turning against one another, of dreadnoughts falling in flames. Soldiers told tales of human fighters who rammed enemy cruisers head-on, of destroyers that detonated their cores just to drag larger ships into death. And slowly, fear turned into regret. On worlds far beyond human space, ordinary aliens spoke in hushed tones. "They fought the entire galaxy," one said. "And they survived," another answered. "If they could do this while weak," a third whispered, "what will they become when they grow stronger?" Rulers who once demanded humanity's death now met in secret again, but not to plan humanity's end. They argued in fear, wondering how long it would be before humans came for them in return. The galaxy, which had once turned on humanity, now regretted it deeply. On the Resolute, Commander Arik Kale stood on the bridge, staring at the ruins beyond the glass. His crew was silent, exhausted, wounded, but alive. One officer spoke softly. "We should return to Earth. They need us." Arik did not answer at first. His eyes remained on the drifting wrecks of alien ships, on the void littered with the remains of the war. Finally he spoke. Earth will live because of what we've done here. But this is only the beginning. The galaxy thought they could kill us. Now they will learn to live with us. Not as rulers of humanity's fate, but as witnesses to our rise. His voice carried across the bridge, heavy with certainty. The crew straightened, their fear fading, their exhaustion burning into pride. Humanity was no longer prey. The fleet began its slow journey back toward human space. The damaged ships moved together like wounded wolves returning to their den, carrying not just soldiers, but millions of frozen civilians, the seed of the future. Messages came from alien worlds. Some begged for peace, some offered alliances, some even offered tribute. Desperate to avoid humanity's wrath, Arak answered them all the same. We do not seek your surrender. We do not seek your slavery. But if you raise your hand against us again, you will regret it. Years later, historians would mark the battle as the turning point of the galaxy. The day when humanity was no longer a young species to be feared or crushed, but a power that demanded respect.